Oh, we're back on the flutes.
Yeah, we were back on the flutes.
I thought we were doing.
Oh, what happened to lineup? I don't know.
I like it though.
Yeah, this is lineup.
Oh, this is it.
This is it.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm thinking, dude. Where have I been, bro?
The flutes was after. Well, they both have flutes.
Oh, did they?
Major flute vibe.
Yeah, I'm losing my shit.
Yeah. Mercury's in retrograde, dude.
Yeah, fuck it.
Mercury's in retrograde.
Full send, dude.
Waking up next to the sketch. Can't go home to a thing. Nah, tell themselves they're the same. Really though, who can they blame?
I take responsibility.
When I play the game and they're eager still.
The worst.
When they know you, I'm busy.
I take responsibility. I take responsibility for every unchecked moment, for every time it was easier to ignore than to call it out for what it
Is
was.
she still in movies, bro?
Not so funny, Joe.
Be on my side if you ain't got one. But you still got
Every unfair stereotype.
Every blatant injustice, no matter how big or small.
Every time I remain silent,
Pop that bubbly.
Every time I explained away police brutality
Line up, everything line up. Watch
or
everything
turned a
line up.
blind eye.
Before the
I
time up,
take
I'ma let my hair down.
responsibility.
Climb up,
Black people
line
are
up,
being
everything
slaughtered
line
in the
up.
streets,
Watch everything
killed
line up.
in their own homes.
Before the
These
time
are
up,
our brothers
my
and
head down.
sisters,
Climb
our
up,
friends,
line up,
our family.
line up,
We are done watching them die.
line up, everything line
We are
up.
no longer bystanders. We will not be idle.
Okay.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't be like that.
Like,
Don't be like that.
just be regular.
Just be regular.
But
like, you
so
don't-
this is the same like type of crew that did the Gal Gadot, like Imagine All the People.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
the Imagine.
Like all the famous people, it's like, hey, we're just gonna be in our like mansions, like doing this like virtue signal shit, so people know that we like try to care or some shit.
It's just stop. Like, I don't even know how much else to explain it except for like, yo, just stop. Just
Please.
stop. Like, just please stop. And like the other thing I want to point out also is that there are 507 likes on this video and 21,000 dislikes.
Yeah.
Stop.
The people
doing
have
it.
spoken.
The people have massively spoken. First of all, who are those 507 people who liked it? Actually, like, what do you? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's all the Karens that liked it.
Was it all the Karen? No.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, Eric, what'd you say when she said like something about black people being killed? What'd you say?
I don't remember.
Oh, you said I didn't like. Oh, you said I don't like the way she said that.
I don't like
Slaughtered
any
in
of
the
it.
streets. Yeah. Amazing. So that's what our famous people are doing.
That's what they're doing.
for this whole movement.
That's what they're doing, and it's pretty interesting to see. Like, it's pretty interesting to see like how like the sort of responsibility Hollywood wants to take, because I think like Hollywood has some responsibility for perpetuating stereotypes.
Oh, in all the movies?
Yeah,
and
in all the
shit?
movies.
It's always
even,
like
like-
black dude who dies first in all the movies. You know what I mean? Like,
100%. Yeah.
like they've been perpetuating this shit for a hot minute. bro.
Like, dude, I don't think I've, except for like maybe like a Hispanic woman, I don't think I've seen like anything other than like maybe 2 or 3. But like if I decided to be in one of those movies, I'd be the Mexican gangster dude walking in to be like, "What's up, fool? What's up, dog?" Rolling up in a lowrider in like East LA.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. But it's also interesting to see like people's reactions to like Crazy Rich Asians, where it's just like all an Asian cast. And like, so I don't fucking know, dude. What do people want? But at the same time, like, I think like Hollywood has to take some responsibility for perpetuating some stereotypes, like with masculinity, with even like how gay people are portrayed. Like, you know, like, I don't know, dude.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think it would be valuable if they used their platforms to like, I don't know, bring money in for
what,
causes
though?
or something. I
But
don't know.
like, but at the same time, it's like for what? Okay, to bring money in for causes, like that would be a good way for them to use their platform, and I agree. But like at the same time, though, like, do we even want to fucking hear from them?
I personally don't want to hear from
So neither do I. Eric, do you?
No, fam.
No. So like, you know, like, dude, we don't care about what you have to say right now. Like, it's so tone deaf. It's like, it's offensive. Like, yo, just let the people do what they're wanting to do right now. Like, no one's asking for your opinion. No one's asking you to step up even.
Yeah. Well, so the interesting thing is I just watched that Chappelle was a special. It wasn't even a special. It was like on YouTube or Netflix as a joke or whatever. But he even was talking. He's like, you know, everyone keeps asking me to speak on the subject. He's like, yo, the streets are talking right now. You know, like there's nothing I need to say. Like the streets are talking. So in the same vein, and he actually, I do value his opinion on the situation because obviously he has a stake in the game. You know, but these people, it's just like,
dude, no one is asking you to.
Exactly.
Even. Like, where's this? I mean, it was like in partnership with the NAACP, but like, I don't know. Did they?
And what is, so my question is, and it's not going to be answered, but like, what is taking responsibility look like for you?
Exactly. So,
you know,
I mean,
just saying it and like broadcasting it out
I mean,
there?
so they were saying like, I take responsibility for every unchecked prejudice or every time I dismiss police brutality or all this, but like, even still, like it doesn't even register to me.
Yeah.
Because as soon as the video starts, I just want to turn it off.
Well, and also like taking responsibility, like saying that you're going to take responsibility and actually taking responsibility are two totally different
Yeah,
things.
of course.
You know what I mean?
Because I could say like, yo, I don't like what's going on. And like, that's as far as like I can go. But the thing is like, we're out here like trying to do something.
Yeah.
Like, you know, within the recent weeks and stuff, like with this podcast and everything, like it was actually like a responsibility to kind of step up and bring some things to light. You know, it's very easy to say like, yo, fuck the cops, you know, defund the police without, you know, actually looking into like what it is that I can actually do in person.
Yeah.
Because the other interesting thing too is that I'm seeing is like, yo, everyone's in everybody's fucking comments, but not doing a damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the other interesting thing too is that like 2 weeks now, and we're back to sharing memes on Facebook. There's like a few lingering of like bringing justice for to Breonna Taylor's killers or to the police that entered that house in that way, and a few other things. There's like a few people, but where it was 2 constant weeks of just this people's back and forth, and now everything's back to
it's the
just
news
regular
cycle,
thing.
bro. It's the news fucking cycle, man. The news, because like I don't fucking watch news, so I still know like what's going on because I find alternative sources. But the news stops talking about this shit, and then everyone on Facebook stops talking about this shit because that's where they're getting their information.
Now we're going back to Corona. Yeah. Second wave, everybody.
And then the next thing, and then the next thing. And
so
the next
I don't know, man. It's just it's a little disheartening too because like, and Eric, you made a good point. Like Eric and I were talking about this a little bit ago. He's like, yo, people are gonna fall off. And like Eric, you made a really good point in saying like people are going to fall off, and it's going to be like the responsibility of African Americans to sort of pick this up and continue going with it.
Yep.
And so that's exactly what's happening. And it's really interesting too. Like, I don't know, man, because to me it feels so much heavier. I guess because I'm a person of color. Hold on, excuse me.
Bless you.
Cut it. Start it over.
Sorry, I got that. Row. Yeah, you know, it's like the responsibility, I guess, like isn't the weight of the responsibility hasn't left me. I can't just continue to go on with my life anymore. Like this has actually like sparked something inside of me that like I have to continue this in like my community and within my people.
Yeah.
And I guess it goes back to the thing, dude. People are gonna move on with their lives. This video is gonna be irrelevant in fucking 2 weeks.
Well, I also think that like the initial outrage has settled, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like, you know, people aren't reporting so much, you know, about the police brutality and stuff, but there's still shit happening. For sure, there's definitely still shit happening. But the initial outrage is slowly waning. The emotional response, yeah, exactly, is waning. But that doesn't mean that like it's died necessarily. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because now it's more about coming up with strategy and like how we're gonna affect change politically in our system. You know, like who we're gonna vote. Like, because now like all this crap's up. Like people are up for re-election and different like Senate seats and House
you know, and
seats
especially here in San Diego, a lot of the seats for our city council are opening up.
Yeah,
I think Chris Ward in the 3rd district, or 3rd or 4th, Eric, 4th district, in the 4th district is the only one up for re-election. A lot of I think the majority of council people are termed out. So like, this is it. Right, Eric? You know what I mean?
But
you were about to talk.
Both of our congressional representatives are up for re-election as well. Mm-hmm. So we got to pay attention to all that. it's, and the thing is, you could pay attention for a period of time, but it's continuing to keep their feet to the fire, because what it's designed for us to do is vote people in, and then they're allowed to represent their own agenda.
Exactly. We vote them in, and then we're just like, all right, well, they're in now, so they're going to have our best interest, and that's not always the case.
That's not the thing too. And it's, I guess for me, maybe I don't understand it, and I'd like to understand more, because like, although we vote in our representatives, we vote in our Congress people, and like I said, I just want to understand it, because like a lot of times, like you're supposed to do the will of the voters. You're not supposed to impose your will onto the voters. So although we elect representatives, like the democracy and the voice of the people, like I feel like isn't necessarily there.
No, well, I think what happens is when you enter the machine, even if you have good intentions, you know what I mean? Like once you enter the machine, when you start espousing like what the people necessarily want, it goes against what the people who are already in power actually want. And then you get all this pushback, and then it's a fucking war. You know what I mean? Like it's an actual war. It's like, do I continue to try to be for the people, or do I kind of like start to mold and fall in line? And like, it's going to be easier this way if I just, maybe once in a while I'll speak out on the Senate floor. But like when it comes down to actually voting on a bill, or like standing up and like saying, no, like we can't do this type shit. Like, where are you at?
Yeah. I mean, that's the frustrating part.
Yeah.
Right, because like this is supposed to be a democracy and it feels like, I'm not going to say like it is and talking in absolute, but it feels like the will of the voters is kind of taken away once the representative is there. And it's a frustration. And I think it's a valuable I think it's a fair frustration, because we were seeing it with Bernie, like people wanted Bernie, and then the machine, the game that was played, like was being played against Bernie.
Yeah. And
like, even though like I may lean more conservative, I still voted for him because like I wanted to support somebody who like I feel like was going to get screwed over by the system.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like at what position are we in now?
He fell in line with the Democratic Party.
And he did.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing though. It's like, so, okay, like we saw an outcry of the people. We saw a revolution of sorts, and we saw some change happen. So is that like what we have to do again?
Well, it's just, I think it's like Eric was saying, it's holding the feet to the fire. It's like continuous fucking battle. Like this is not going to be easy. Dude. No one said this was going to be easy. That this like, oh, we get this guy in office, and then like everything's going to change.
We got our guy,
and it's not sexy.
Yeah, it's not going to be.
You're not going to get clout on Instagram for it. You're not going to be able to. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna have to call your call your representative.
Yeah.
They're going to ignore the fuck out of you. Like, this shit ain't sexy, man.
So what are you going to do? Screenshot your call to your representative and post it up on Instagram?
I'd rather post my avocado toast.
Yeah. Of course, dude. But that's the hard part, dude, is like I was sharing last week on the podcast, it's like, do we know what the actual work entails? Like, do we know, or like the emotional response was great, being able to protest and like shout our voices, but do we know what this really means?
No, I don't think it's all has fully formed yet. I think the discussion has begun, and that's what we're doing here as well.
I'll tell you what's happening, at least in the groups that I'm in. Yeah. We actually have formed little coalitions that go along in Black business owners here in San Diego that are connecting with the larger coalitions, the Black Chamber of Commerce. Mm-hmm. And our approach and my approach is continuing to build a stronghold in at least Black economy. And Black economy builds Black influence. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Like, you could be yelling in the street, but if you don't have financial backing to influence politicians, we're not making changes. So I will tell you, like, if you're asking like what's next, that's what a lot of the people in the community are doing. It's collectively as a whole, pooling together and supporting each other's business in order to create more influence in that regard.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I was actually just watching something today. This guy was basically talking about capitalism and the powers that be, and he basically made a good point of like, to run for office, you need money, right? Mm-hmm. And it's designed that way because, it's designed so that you have to be affluent to even make it into office. So then you're already on that side of the coin, right? because to even get in there, you have to have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And like, so like the regular Joe Schmo, like who might be like more for like the the working class people and you know, lower class people, he can't get into fucking office because he needs to have whatever it costs to even run. You know what I'm saying?
You need to buy a ticket, dude.
Yeah.
You got enough money to buy a ticket into the thing? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So it's like the system's designed that way.
Yeah.
For a reason. And
so speaking of that, like speaking, I guess, like through with our city council and everything, like San Diego City Council actually this week increased the San Diego Police Department budget by $27 million. Even with all the outcries to defund police or to lower the budget or to allocate some of that proposal, the proposed $27 million into reinvesting into our neighborhoods that need some resources, it still went through. And to be fair, you know, because I was seeing a lot of like, how could they pass this increase? Like, people were protesting, people were this. Like, to be fair to at least this situation, like this proposal was already up on the docket before this started happening. And it was just happened to be the timing that this proposal got approved when they had like a week to try to come up with something different. And to be fair, because I'm not also going to sit here and just like shit on the city council, because like, you know, it's, again, dude, we have to look into things a little bit deeper instead of just seeing a headline and being like, what? Dude, how fucking dare they? You know, which is like what we're seeing so much of. And like, I don't want to be that person. It's so easy to fall for that.
Yeah. Well, and like, you know, so if we were following this, if we were really involved in politics and we were following this from the beginning, then it would have been a different story. But we're only now involved in the political system to the extent that we are is because of all this shit happening. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of goes to your point.
Yeah, it's true. So Council President Georgette Gomez made some comments on this, because while it happened, I also like looked into like, okay, was there any defense into this? Like, what happened? Like, what was a true cause? Like, regardless of what people are saying, that they're going to go ahead and approve a $27 million increase, which is a lot of money, dude. That's so much money.
Oh yeah.
Like, if you really think about it, so much money. Like, I know we're used to hear when we're hearing numbers as far as like political
and trillions and fucking,
when you hear them in context of like political budgets.
That was a really bad Trump, but I tried.
Yeah, it's all good. You know, some of these things can kind of like, they just don't have so much of an effect of what sort of how big $27 million is. But that's huge, dude.
Yeah. Is it?
Yes, I think so. Think about it, Eric.
In San Diego,
if you had $27 million, how big of an impact could you make?
Hey, man, not really, bro.
I know, but think of how much money is already being put. So this is an increase into how much the police budget is already receiving, which I could pull that up also.
Yeah, you're right. It is a large amount of money.
So she pretty much said like she said like we couldn't get there. It's not because we didn't try. We just couldn't get there. There wasn't a straight path to say we're going to remove $10 million and it's going to come from this. So she said she was working all weekend to get something
like a new bill.
Yeah, to get a new bill or an amendment. And she also said, not all my council colleagues believe that we should do that, speaking in regards to decreasing the police budget. And the mayor expressed that if we were to touch the budget on the police department, he would have vetoed our budget. Right? So that's also a big factor. So like, you know, I think we also kind of have to give benefit of the doubt instead of having such a knee-jerk reaction into like, well, fuck them, dude.
That's like what our culture is nowadays.
Yeah, and it exactly is. And so like, yo, I just want to encourage people like, yo, just let's think a little bit deeper than what's at the surface level instead of a headline or just an emotional reaction. Like, you know, because I've had to. And it's not easy. I've had to take a step back from my like just straight reaction of how I want to react to into like, well, let me look into this then. Mm-hmm. And then base my opinion on what I have in front of me. And dude, that goes for both.
Yeah.
That goes for both sides. Because I'll get into something a little bit later in regards to that.
So in terms of like the defunding thing, I think a lot of people get confused when people say defund the police.
Yeah.
Like, what does that actually mean? And we touched a little bit on it the last podcast.
We did because it was so new.
Yeah.
And like, I also like, I don't know. It's not that I didn't feel comfortable talking about it. I just didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
Right.
So defund doesn't necessarily mean like abolish or get rid of the whole fucking police force.
Yeah.
Just means like reallocate funds, or at least this is what I take it to mean, is reallocate funds. Maybe remove the military like style like equipment and stuff. But I just watched Jocko on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I implore anyone who's like curious about this, they have like a 30-minute segment on this topic, and Jocko being like a Navy SEAL guy, he talks about the training of the police, and this might be from his knowledge. I don't think that this is across the board, but basically he was saying that police are trained like a very limited amount, and then they're just sent out into the field to just do the shit. And he was talking about in like the military, like especially in SEALs, they're trained for 18 months to go do a 6-month mission. You know, so it's like he was kind of alluding to the fact that like he believes that the police need more training and more leadership, and that kind of
that might need more funds.
That might need more funds.
Yeah,
but I think it would be more valuable to have our police force trained instead of like, I think they only do like a very limited amount of hours a year on like de-escalation or like what to do.
Yeah.
So it's like we gotta rethink what we want our police to be trained in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I mean, it kind of brings up an interesting point, because like I saw something that really made me think earlier this week. It's like a lawyer has to go to school for 8 years to practice law, and a police officer can go through, you know, an 18-week program.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's longer than that. Yeah, to enforce the law, which is like, you know, our barbers have more hours spent in before they can go. Nail salons have more in that. So, I mean, what are we really, so I guess it just brought up the question into me, is like, what are we really preparing the police for?
Well, definitely not for the job that you're supposed to accomplish.
And this isn't so much like a, sorry, dude, I got distracted by you guys in there. And this isn't so much of like, this is also like a concern for me for police officers in general. Because like I shared last week, like I know people who are in law enforcement and who are actually there like on the front lines facing the protesters. And this is more of me like a concern for them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like I'm just as equally concerned for them. So like, if they're not getting the proper training and the proper like fundamentals on how to do something in this position, like they're also being put in danger.
Yeah, not only the proper training, but also like, I mean, I'm sure there's PTSD associated with being a cop. Like if you're seeing like whatever, I don't know what cops in different cities experience, but like your members getting shot, or seeing some like crazy domestic disputes, seeing like murders, whatever you're seeing, there's PTSD associated with that. And also like, are they getting the right care? Like, are they getting administrative leave? Or I mean, they're getting like leave to like decompress. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or are they supposed to like see their homie shot and then the next day just go up and like give tickets the next day? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't know.
So it's all stuff that we got to talk about. Yeah. So I think that just general like, oh, we gotta fucking get rid of police, like that's not really valid.
That's why I had to take a step into this and be like, what does defunding really mean?
But there is an interesting case in Camden. Yeah. So I saw, and I don't know the full extent of this, but basically they got rid of the whole police force in Camden, and then they basically rebuilt from scratch. But they still have a police force. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They just rebuilt it, and they focused their police force a lot more on community outreach and stuff like that, to the point where like it's not the same police force they had, but they rebuilt it from scratch. Yeah. And now like actually their crime went down a bunch, and like all their murders and different things went down a bunch because of it. So it's not just all about like, oh, we just got to cancel everything. But some cities, if it's like super corrupt and the police force is just really not good, then yeah, maybe we need to ban it and build it from scratch again.
Yeah, because there's also another thing that I'm starting to see, which I think like takes place in a lot of different things that it's applicable to. It's like, well, this is the way we've always done it, sort of thing. And there's this pushback of like wanting to change in this thing, because like, you can't just take the stance of this is the way we've always done it, so we're not going to change it. It has to like.
That's the same thing with all the things.
Yeah, and so
Like
that's
our whole
hard
political
because
system.
like as I've sort of like started looking into things into more and like hearing response from police officers and police chiefs and that guy that we played on the podcast last week, the union boss, it feels very much like that. Without like you were, because you brought up something super interesting that I wish we would have kind of talked into more. It's just like taking the responsibility within ourselves and within our own communities, right? Because like we were sharing that like we take on the responsibility of a few bad apples as people of color, and it's starting to happen now to police, or it's been happening to police, to be fair with them. And you said something that like I just stuck with me, is that like the same responsibility that we take within our own community, like if something is happening and the way we lift other people and then remove things that aren't good within our cultures, this same thing can be happening within a police force. And I'm not a cop, so I don't know what that pressure is like.
Yeah.
And like, I'm actually like, I would love to sit down with a cop and see what that really is. Because I also don't like, I'm not in here saying fuck the police.
Yeah.
Because I also don't think that's very productive. Because I want to reach a solution and understanding. I don't want to like be like, now we came on top as winners. But I don't know, man. It's that responsibility, dude. It has to be something big. But that's also part of the work that I said, like, are we even really ready to take that on?
Well, we have to be fucking ready because it's fucking happening. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There was something I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, dude.
Because you mentioned Breonna Taylor and like, the protests and whatnot. So they passed in Kentucky the no-knock law. I think they called it the Breonna law.
Yeah.
Which is a win for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But like, that's just like basically like, even though it's a win, it's still like a placating, It's like, okay, we're going to pass this so you guys can like stop fucking being in the streets now. The no-knock thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not like good enough. You know what I'm saying? Like still the cops haven't been charged.
Yeah.
Still they're working, right?
They're still out there.
So it's like the system's going to try to throw bones to be like, okay, look, we're doing something, right? But that doesn't mean that that's like good enough. You know what I'm saying? And especially with the no-knock law. So what was happening in Louisville, I think it was specifically, is there was this no-knock law where basically cops could enter your house without knocking or announcing themselves. So they can literally just bust down the door and like run into your house and just like, if you're sleeping, whatever's happening, they can just run into your house. So now this no-knock law is basically saying, okay, they first have to announce themselves, but that doesn't mean that they don't just bust into your... They don't
like,
just say,
it's the cops, boom!
Yeah, exactly. Cops, and just like bust in the door and then just start like pointing guns at people. So although it's a good thing that the cops won't just bust into your house and not announce themselves, doesn't mean that they're still not going to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing, but like...
So basically what I'm saying is like, we can't just say, okay, that's good enough, and then just like give up on the whole case,
Yeah, I mean, because that's been a big thing in my mind too, is that like, what about the cops that like actually killed her? Or the commanding officer, or whoever, like the police chief or whatever chain of command that okayed something like that to happen. Like, there's no responsibility to be taken on that person. There's just no responsibility at all that was taken there.
Yeah.
So like that, it goes back to the accountability and holding somebody responsible. It's like, I think the cops who executed that, okay, yes, there's that. And then also the chain of command that is going to like let something like that happen. Like, isn't there something to be said about that also? Doesn't that change have to also start within the top?
Yeah, it all comes back to leadership, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that our country is really yearning for, is just like solid leadership, people who are an example, you know what I mean? An example to the people under them.
Hey, you want to talk about this Ohio senator?
Yeah, dude. Play that shit, dude.
All right.
This is like, so real quick. So there's
give
this Republican senator from Ohio was talking about like why the colored population might be experiencing more COVID cases than other people.
Yeah, man. So I really want to hear this very educated response.
Yeah. So by the way, this guy was a doctor. So it's not. Yeah. It's a doctor
Yeah.
who's also a senator from Ohio, and this is his explanation.
Cool. Well, if I ever move to Ohio, I'm going to call this guy for him to be my practitioner. So let's see what this guy says, man. I'm really interested to hear his super educated response.
So yeah,
Hey, bruh, why are brown people so dirty?
Yeah,
dude?
it's because they don't wash their hands. You know what I mean? Like that's the reason that a doctor is coming up, or so-called doctor.
So-called doctor. Who was this representative? What, Ohio?
So they're calling for him to. No, they're calling for him
calls
to
for
resign,
him to resign
because
after
of that
this
ridiculous
fucking
statement.
ridiculous
and I actually saw someone basically talk about this video, and there was actually studies done.
Yeah.
That colored people actually wash their hands more than white people. Like white people were like the lower on the list in terms of washing their hands.
Yeah, because there's this thing about white people feeling untouchable. They'll take the coronavirus over too, dude.
Yeah,
they'll
dude.
be mowing their lawns by next
Well, you
week.
could just pray it away.
Yeah,
you know
we
what I'm
could
saying?
just pray it away. Oh, don't even get me started on that shit. But yeah, dude, that shit's so funny. Dude. Is it because they're just not washing their hands?
They're dirty.
They're dirty. That was it. That's basically what he
It's
said. Is that
insane,
they're just
dude.
fucking dirty.
But these are the type of people that are in leadership positions in our country.
yeah,
So that's the battle we're against. You know what I mean? We're against the battle of people who are just so obviously like ignorant and like possibly racist. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And they're like the people who are like running our country right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's also something to be said that, like, I don't know if people realize that it's okay to say, I don't know. Let me look into it. Like, he had to give a response, and his response was fucking wild. Right? But, like, yo, it's okay to be like, you know what? I don't know, but let me look into it so that we can change something about it.
Yeah.
Like, I would have rather him say, like, I don't know, over, like, him say that. Dude, like, you know, that's what's just absolutely crazy, dude.
Yeah, dude.
So brown people are dirtier, dude. That's why we get corona more than our white counterparts.
It's probably actually vitamin D deficiency.
Is it?
Which, yeah, it's definitely a thing, right?
Yeah, I just got in my blood work, my vitamin D was well below. I was deficient, but that affects the immune response.
And there's a scientific explanation for that.
Listen to Joe Rogan's last podcast with Dr. Rhonda Patrick.
Hey, 2 Joe Rogan references in one podcast.
Dude, Joe's
What's
fucking
up,
bringing them
dog?
hitters, bro.
What's up, dog?
Soon we're
What's up,
hitting
fool?
them fucking hitters.
Let's see. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, dude, do you want to go over the segregation
Yeah,
thing?
dude, let's go over it, dude.
Eric, you ready to send it on the segregation thing?
Sure, bro.
Cool. So I'm just super distracted, man. I'm not gonna lie. That I can hear the band practicing next door. And
It's okay. It's getting edited out.
Okay, as much as they sound really good, my ADD is kind of coming up. So I remember having this conversation with this older woman who had lived in San Diego her whole life, and she was like 85. And she was telling me a little bit of the history of like that area by Cowles Mountain, or it's actually pronounced Coles Mountain. And like why that was, why there's such a high density of like Jewish population there. And she like just sort of lightly touched on these covenants where people of certain like races and religions weren't allowed to live in certain parts of San Diego. And I was like, damn, dude, I wish I had more time to talk to her about this, because she was like a living history book of San Diego. And so I was kind of looking at something, reminded me this week of that conversation that I was having with her. And it caused me to take a deeper look into like the neighborhoods in our city. Because I've always like noticed that San Diego is very segregated. Right. And then like within each 10 to 15 minutes that we travel in any direction within San Diego, it becomes like it's very different from each other. Right. So I was like looking it up. And it turns out, dude, there was like deeds put into houses and covenants where like people, and this is the actual, like the wording from some of these deeds. It says, no part of said property or any building therein shall be used or occupied by any person not belonging to the Caucasian race, either as owner, leasee, licensee, tenant, or in any other capacity of that servant or employee.
Damn, bro. What year was this?
So this was so this started happening. So as far as I understand it, like before, like in the early 1900s, I want to say like the 1920s, because like down here in the port of San Diego, it's very industrious, and that wasn't always the case. Right. And so there was actually a push more to keep San Diego very natural by the mayor at that time. Shit, dude, they're jamming over there. To keep San Diego the way it is. Right. So not a whole lot of industry in that capacity. But as like World War II started to come around and like all these other things too. So it started to become very industrious. We have NASCO, we have shipyards, we have like airline companies that do stuff down there. And so as that started bringing in more workers. And actually what's very interesting about that at that time is that there were several companies down there that would only employ Caucasian people. And yeah, of course, why not? Because I guess they're better workers or something. I don't know. And so then as other companies started popping up, then people of color started to work in those areas as well. And so keep in mind at the times, it's not like we're living in a day like today where every household has 2 to 3 cars in it, or at least 2. So obviously you're going to live closer to where your job is, right? So with that influx of people that were coming in, of people of color, there was a white migration out of those areas. And for a combatant of that, these covenants and this lettering within the deeds of the houses, the ownership of the houses, that language was put into it to keep people within this like southeast, these people of color within like the southeast corner of San Diego. And like there's people that listen to this podcast that aren't from San Diego and may not know what we're referencing. Yeah. But here in San Diego, what's known as Southeast San Diego, it's like there's one freeway that like it makes a very clear distinction from one way or the other.
Literally.
From Golden Hill to Sherman Heights.
Yeah.
All the way down into downtown. And like I've always noticed that. And so I started looking into it. I was like, damn, dude. Like there was a major reason for that. It's because of this. And it wasn't until 1962 that the law was actually passed. Right, that said like this legislation that was passed that said like you can't enforce these like racially prejudiced things. So that was done in 1962, and it was these deeds were still being enforced up until the 70s. And so what's like bringing it back up into light and to sort of at least have some understanding, and some of the people that may not understand this is that like this didn't happen 200-300 years ago.
Yeah.
This 1970s might have been the last of this, but it's not like 1970 happened and everyone's like, all right, cool, let's move into every other neighborhood in the county.
Well, it's still like that today.
And it still is like that.
So even though like the law was passed in this, whatever, in the 62 or whatever, like it's still the case today. Yeah. Where there's that like, there's that line.
And so the interesting thing is that
and it could be controlled from like pricing.
Yeah.
It can still be controlled in other ways.
Yeah, so it still does it. There's actually like, I wanted to bring it up, but there's like, people of color are like 6 times more likely to be declined a housing loan than white people. But we can get into that another day. I have to like look more into that. But so this is just interesting to me because like, this is my mom.
Yeah.
This isn't my great-great-grandmother. This isn't black and white. Like, this is my mom.
Yeah.
And so if you think about like, even though in the 1970s, like that might have been the last of enforcement of it, think of how many of those neighborhoods were still integrated in that before they become desegregated. We're looking at 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So this is a recent thing as people are starting to move into neighborhoods that are actually desegregated. And so the sentiment behind this is that like people believe that black people, Mexican people, Jewish families, or other minority people groups were going to drive down property values. So also think of the impact of that mentality. And think of the impact of the view onto those people from those cultures.
Yeah. Well, and also like you're seeing the, in a sense, reverse of that with gentrification now. Like, and like even thing. San Diego is like pushing out, like even now, like in like Logan Heights and stuff, and those types of areas, like there's people that are like moving in with, that are necessarily white or have higher incomes, and they're basically slowly taking over and pushing people further east.
And what's really interesting about that is that like the building, because I've been talking to a few like business owners, a few other people within the Chicano community, because I want to get I want to work on something as well. And so these things are enforced. It's up to like, let's say just up to the 1970s. So everything that's owned here, based on what I've heard like around the community, is that like even our own Hispanic people aren't owning the buildings and the developments here in Logan Heights. And so you have gentrification of like up until, a certain point within this century, like people weren't allowed to expand further than the borders that they were kept into. And now we have an influx of people coming back into them. And it's not like it's a white person's fault right now. Like the 25-year-old who wants to move into Logan Heights, it's not his fault.
Yeah.
But the way I feel about it is like, give us an opportunity to at least build up what we have here that we can at least start building for ourselves. And so we still have an influx and this big migration of developers that are turning these neighborhoods into something else. So like, that's one of my major problems with gentrification.
Yeah.
Because there's also another argument. It was like, well, these things are like, they're starting to build up our neighborhoods. They're starting to make them look nice. They're starting to turn around. Because if you look at these neighborhoods, they're very different than what they were 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah. I used to live in North Park, and someone was telling me even like 10, 15 years ago, North Park was like a totally different place.
But I grew up here.
Yeah.
I grew up in San Diego. Right. So I know what Logan Heights was like 10 years ago. It was very different. But, I don't know, man. It's this carries a lot of weight for us. Because like that's why like San Diego is still segregated, because it was very recent that they became desegregated. This wasn't a long time ago.
Yeah.
And think like the societal consequences of that. Because that's the sentiment. There goes the neighborhood. Ooh. There goes the neighborhood. Yeah. Right? And so like that's why like that's starting to make a lot more sense that like when my family moved to where I grew up in East County, like we had neighbors that wouldn't talk to us. Well, because this is so recent.
Yeah.
This isn't 100 years ago.
Yeah, San Diego's an interesting place, man, because we have so many people moving in from all over. And me, myself, I moved from the East Coast. So we have such a like mix of people coming from all over the country here. But there's still like that old school fucking San Diego, like, conservative vibe. You know what I'm saying?
And so tying like... It is crazy because I do feel like San Diego is very conservative for being a liberal city.
Yeah.
But now also think of the implications of like what policing looks like in different communities because of that. So Southeast San Diego has always been like, that's where the people of color, lower income, that's where this and like all these other cities for so long, for almost 100 years, in the early 1900s to the 1970s. So think of how like different policing is going to be in those other areas. Right?
Yeah.
Are they going to go into Claremont and what I'm trying to say is they're not going to go into La Jolla and into Southeast San Diego the same way. For sure. They're going to go into La Jolla and be like, all right, let's make sure everything's okay here. You know, it's just if we're here. But they're going to go into our neighborhoods down here and look for things that are going on.
Oh, yeah.
Like a target on people.
Yeah.
Or, policing to look for something. And is that necessarily what we want out of a police officer? Do we want somebody coming in with the mentality that everyone around us may be doing something wrong and I have to find it?
Yeah, dude, fucking Jocko mentioned like that police should be referees.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like they should come into the situation and mediate between whatever's going on. You know what I'm saying? Versus like, so he made the analogy of like, imagine you're watching an MMA fight and the round is over. And then the referee goes and just like karate kicks like the other fighter. You'd be like, everyone would be so upset. Everyone would be pissed off. Like, what is this guy doing? Well, it's the same, like he made the metaphor towards like the police. Like the police are supposed to be a referee between the two parties or whatever's going on, the dispute or, whatever's happening. But instead they're like taking a side. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
So it's kind of like where the discrepancy is.
Yeah. But again, it goes to like, a part of me also feels like I can't even blame them. That's just the way they've been taught.
Or the culture or whatever.
Or whatever. It's like, I almost like I feel a little bit of sympathy because it's like, maybe they just don't even know better because they just haven't been taught another way.
Yeah. So I have an interesting thing. So you know, as you were talking about the segregation, I was thinking about where I grew up. So I grew up on the East Coast, and the town where I grew up was actually like one of the first of its kind in the country. It was like a organized community, I guess, where they like had their own school system. It was like a community inside the town. And up till like 1930 or so, they actually had laws that like Jews couldn't live there. You know what I mean? And now like my mom like runs the place, like she's like the manager of the place. So things have changed, but it got me thinking, especially about, you know, last podcast we talked about like the taking down of these Confederate statues and the Confederate flag and all these things. And I saw a meme that basically said the Confederate flag is like to black people what like the Nazi flag is to like Jewish people. And it got me really thinking about like how I identified with my, you know, my religion and my ethnicity. You know, so like when I was growing up, I'm a Middle Eastern Jew. You know, I'm actually like Syrian, Russian, and Jewish. And like growing up, for some reason, I thought that was like bad or something. You know what I mean? Like I never wanted to. It was so hard for me to tell when people like, "What are you?" You know, it's like so hard for me to like figure out what can I say that's like the least offensive thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, should I say I'm like Syrian? Should I say I'm Jewish? Should I say I'm like Russian? Like, what the fuck do I say? Because all those people are discriminated against in some form or fashion, right?
Yeah.
So like growing up, I always had this like complex of like, how do I identify myself and like not be hated? So for a long time, I didn't necessarily like being Jewish. You know what I mean? It's like almost like the South Park thing with Kyle when he's like, you know, a lonely Jew on Christmas. You know what I mean? It's just like this weird fucking identity crisis that I had, you know, and it's like working through that's been really interesting. And now like I don't identify with the Jewish faith in that way. Like I'm not religious in any sort, but like I'm ethnically Jewish. Like even my 23andMe says like I'm like 50-something% like Ashkenazi Jew.
That's a lot of Jews.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm Jewish as fuck. And it's an interesting thing, and kind of like what you spoke about last time with the like Latin American community and like racism. Like, dude, Jews are also racist as fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they really are. Like especially like religious Jews. You know what I mean? Like I don't know too much about like fucking like the Hasidic Jews.
Yeah.
But I mean, look what's going on in Israel right now.
Yeah.
With like the Palestinians.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
so
heavy.
It's like, it's like, I think this is a time for everyone to really look at their roots, you know, and it's something that I've been really looking back into of my roots and just having some really interesting like revelations of like how we all got here, you know, and I think this time for me is so interesting because like not that much longer ago, like my people are being like executed by mass.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that really affected the way how I had trouble identifying myself because it seemed, and it still seems that like anti-Semitism is still a fucking thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like all the time you hear, oh, it's the fucking Jews. Like it's the rich Jews who are like fucking shit up and they're behind all the, so it's like, it's so interesting that that's still a thing. And it's still something that I talk about with my family. You know, it's like anti-Semitism hasn't gone away, you know? So it's just like, it's something to like constantly have to deal with, you know, and I don't really know what else to say about it, but it's like crazy.
Can I say something?
No.
All right.
I'm just kidding.
That's the interesting part of the race relations in this country is because Jewish people deal with anti-Semitism. White nationalists wear swastikas and complain about the Jewish media and are clearly like anti-Semitism is open and spoken about. And Latinos are being captured and caged at the border. And I just read a headline that how many children are sexually abused in these shelters, in these, in cages. Asian Americans are discriminated against and have hate crimes against them. I just watched a video of a woman say, "Go back to where you're from, China,
the
man."
Karen.
Okay, so hold on. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
If you're if you're a Sikh, they call you a terrorist. Yep. There's racism against if you are brown. If you're gay, you can still be killed here. Gay people just got protections to not be fired yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday. And also, trans people were their rights to healthcare were removed 2 days ago. So this is what's interesting about race relations in the country. You have all this clear, but all of those races and communities say, at least I'm not black. And what people don't understand is that if you as Jewish people want that to stop, and if Latino people want to stop being put in cages, and Asian people want to live freely, we all need to be liberated and destroy those systems of oppression. As long as we're divided like that, it's going to be we're fighting such an uphill battle.
Bars.
It's straight 100%
that
bars.
Was bars right there.
But, in the Hispanic community, dude, I'm hurt, dude. I'm actually very hurt, and I'm so very frustrated because there's so much more that I could say. But here's the thing: is it's almost like the Hispanic community is going to continue to be divided because we divide ourselves within it. We carry on. Fuck it, dude. I'm going to send it.
Let's go.
Because within my family, there's this major issue. It's this pushing to marry these white men and to talk down on other Mexican people. I don't think I'm going to let my children date Mexicans. There's these from other extended family. Yo, that is so gross, dude. How dare you guys? You're talking about me. You're talking about my future children. You're talking about so-and-so's children who's also in part of our family. There's this hatred to ourselves and to our own culture. And even though the other side of my family may be Costa Rican, but yo, where is this coming from, dude? Who just like Malcolm X, who taught you how to hate yourself?
Yeah.
Dude, it's so frustrating because
it's internalized.
It's so internalized, and it's and if you were to say yo, dude, that's really racist. I'm no, I don't think that's really racist.
People might even get offended if you
and they actually would. But the thing is dude, we have to stop this. Because if we're tired of being viewed in this different way, yo, guess what? No matter how much you want to date this white guy, you're not white. I'm sorry to tell you. And you're still viewed as the other. Even in my wife's family, dude, they have no malicious intent. Don't even get me wrong about that. But there's still a feeling to me of other. And maybe that's just my own insecurities, but maybe not. And to my other Latino people and to my Latino family, you're not white. You're not going to be. Stop. It's okay to be okay with being Hispanic. Dude, you're not going to be white.
Yeah, I think I can't speak directly to that, but I know that I heard something similar in Brazil as well. That let's say people that are darker color skin, they want to become more white.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Every single country you go to, the darker people, the darker you are, the worse you're treated. And ethnic cleansing in Colombia, Dominicans attacking Haitians in DR, not 10 years ago, 2 years ago, there was a problem. It's darker skinned Mexican people. I don't understand what it is, but Sammy Sosa, have you ever seen what Sammy Sosa looks like today?
Yeah.
Sammy Sosa has bleached his skin. Yep. In Jamaica, Vibes Cartel. Do you remember Vibes Cartel?
There's a lot of people in Jamaica doing that, right?
Yeah, Vibes Cartel bleached his skin. Little Kim was a dark-skinned woman. She's a light-skinned Chinese woman now.
But it's true. It's true. There's just this alterate. I mean, yo,
Well, I think that brings it. Go off.
No, you go off.
I think that brings it back to this internalized thing, and that's why it all starts with us. You know what I'm saying? That's why this thing is such a challenge. Is because before we can affect real change on the broad spectrum of things, it's the change has to start within, and it has to start within the families and has to start within ourselves, and that's the hard part. That's the hard fucking work. It's easier to get angry and emotional and like
Yeah,
say
it's easier
things
to
need to
call it.
change, but like when you have to sit with yourself and really fucking dig deep on
Yeah.
like, why do I feel this way, or why, you know, why does my family feel this way, or have those difficult conversations? That's like the
And
hard fucking work.
It's hard, man. The hardest part of that is to like remove my ego out of it and like take L's. Yo, dude, like, do you even know what taking an L every day like this looks like, dude? This is like L after L after L, man.
Yeah.
This,
I think we're getting better at taking L's though.
yeah, and I hope so. I know,
Yeah.
like I am,
Yeah.
but because I have to ask myself, I have to stop. Like I have to ask myself when I say, is there another way to look at this? Because I don't know a goddamn thing.
For sure. Me neither.
And like, dude, it's okay. And like I said earlier about this Congress or the senator, it's okay to say like, I don't know, dude, but let me look into it. Let's see. But this pressure to have an answer for something like constantly, like, dude, where are we even getting that upon ourselves? Like I may be on a microphone and I may be expressing myself in different ways, but like at the end of the day, like I'm not gonna know all the answers. I may have an opinion on certain things and like through certain experiences and things I've learned, but at the end of the day, like everything and everything that's ever going down ever, I have an answer to. You know, like that.
I'm with you on that, dude. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I know we're coming to a close, but I did want to mention one other thing that's been happening, which is like really, I feel really angry actually.
Yeah.
We're seeing news reports of black men being
It's 4, by
hung-
the way.
4.
4 lynchings.
Yeah, basically 4 lynchings.
Allegedly.
Allegedly,
which
let's be
we all,
fair.
let's be real, but so 4 men have been found hanging from trees. I think 2 at least in Southern California.
Yes, and Palmdale and where was the other place, Eric?
I don't remember the other place.
Palmdale or Lancaster, Lancaster or Palmdale.
Yeah, so we're seeing this, and they were originally classified as suicides, which is just fucking repulsive. And in my view, like this is my emotional view, it's like this is like war, bro. Like to go to that, to go back to lynching, that's like war shit, bro. Like you want to start a war.
Victorville and Lancaster or Palmdale. I mean, double check. Victorville for sure. But
Like-
dude, I've had like major racist encounters in Palmdale, like super racist in restaurants. In a couple restaurants down there, dude. It's gross. It's gross. Stop,
like-
stop.
But like we're going to lynchings.
Yeah, lynchings. That's
Like,
that's the response.
That's where we're at.
That's the response.
That's like the white nationalist response to this whole situation is lynchings.
And like, so now like the FBI vowed to like take a look into it and investigate it and everything. But like, yo, their local police said it was suicide.
Yeah. So I mean, this brings us all the way back. It's like this shit is real, bro.
Mhm.
Like I know
It's real.
so I'm being now like being brought to awareness, and obviously Eric has a different experience growing up as an African American, but like this shit is fucking real, and these protests are for a real fucking cause. You know what I mean? It's not just like, oh, okay, you know, defund the police. Like no, there's still like serious fucking issues in this country that need to be discussed, and like I don't know what else to do about it, but I'm fucking pissed off that I saw. Like I literally got like angry to the point where like I wanted to like do some shit. You know what I mean? Just seeing that headline.
It's infuriating, dude.
Yeah.
Like a lynching in 2020.
Bro, I got chased out of Whitestone, New York in 06. Like, this shit is, they were chasing people out of neighborhoods when I was growing up. This ain't new. And I understand that people want to be emotional about it, but we really have to think deep and be strategize and be consistent. And you know, I was talking to a family member, and we got to keep being loud about it because it's falling off. And I find myself even thinking about other things, and I can't think about other things. I can check out with my family. My family it's time to check out with them and focus on them. But when I'm in work mode, this is what we need to be doing. We need to be sharing these experiences, speaking loud about it, talk about what's happening in different cities. You know, I don't want to harp on it because some people want to get away from it, but I feel like some people have to keep the movement going and saying it out loud because so many people cannot.
Well, what a very nice thing to be able to get away from. I wish I could be in that position to just be like, you know what, man, I just want to take a break from it and just get away from it. But I can't.
Well, the thing was, I didn't see much coverage on this shit. I think I like saw it like on some like secondhand shit that was like, oh damn, I didn't even know this happened. But it wasn't like national fucking news. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know, man, because there may be a lot more findings that need to come up, dude. Is it a suicide? Is it not? I mean, fuck. It sure as hell doesn't feel like it.
Doesn't sound like a fucking suicide.
No. And
there's many other ways to commit suicide.
And I guess like looking into this thing now, like one thing that was like, I just couldn't get away from this week as like, it was just another exhausting week for me. Because I can't turn this off. We can't step away from it. We don't have that privilege to be able to do that. So Trump is holding that rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Juneteenth, right? And of course, as expected, there's going to be a major outcry from that. And
can you explain what Juneteenth is?
So Juneteenth is like Black liberation, right? The emancipation of slaves.
Not technically.
Not technically?
It was the last stronghold of slavery was in Texas. Mm-hmm. So on Juneteenth, on June 19th, it was declared that all Black men were freed as of slaves. Okay. Because Emancipation Proclamation was on January 1st, okay. And Juneteenth is obviously months later.
And then there was a massacre, right? I mean, that's what the day is signifying, right?
Yeah, so a giant, I'm trying to find like more information. I don't know where this goddamn thing went, but so there was essentially, like a white community came in to attack a Black community in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It's the super cliff notes, but yeah. And now there's Trump like 65 deaths, but like, a couple hundred people in the hospital and some people that were interned. And so there was a major thing.
What are you talking about? The whatever. You guys go ahead. I think you're talking about the massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma was not on Juneteenth. That was in the 1900s.
I didn't say it was in Juneteenth. I'm saying that that Trump is holding the rally on Juneteenth in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Gotcha.
So one thing that like I'm seeing so much, and it's frustrating to me, and like maybe I should stop looking at this so much. But like one of the comments that I was starting to see are like, I didn't even know Juneteenth was a thing until they brought it up. That's the point, man. Do you not like start to like, I'm seeing so much of this, like making your ignorance known through a statement that you aren't even aware that you're ignorant to. You didn't know Juneteenth was a thing? Something that actually is a part of American history?
Yeah.
Like, so the other thing too is that like, what's frustrating to me is that like, I'm seeing so much parroting.
Oh yeah.
It's like, well, you're waiting for Candace Owens. You're waiting for Ben Shapiro. You're waiting for these other individuals who you deem as intellectuals, and even on the other side as well. You're waiting for them to say something, and then you repeat exactly what they say, and that's as far as you're going.
As it's fact.
Yeah, but that's as far as you're going.
Yeah.
See, what's frustrating me is that I guess we're in a position where we have to be so responsibly introspective every day. Not only from like the position that we are in and like who we are and what we do, but in a position of like being here on a podcast. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, I think an issue that needs to be looked at is just critical thinking in general.
And so, yeah,
it's a lack of critical thinking.
And so like, that's pretty much what I want to bring up is that like, it's frustrating to me to see people with this lack of critical thinking because they're doing this and they're parroting. And what's happening is that like just by default, one, that is ignorance.
Oh yeah.
If you're not taking a look into these things and analyzing it yourself and maybe thinking how this applies to you or how you could even expand on something else. But what you're doing is that you're allowing somebody else to do the thinking for you. If you want to label yourself as a free thinker, if you want to label yourself as some an open-minded individual, you can't keep in the same cycle. Because I like make a commitment to myself every day for something like this.
Yeah.
So I look at these things and I like, sometimes they're good. Yeah. Because it confirms our biases.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think that's a great point. I think, what's crazy is I actually got the inspiration to reread 1984.
Damn.
I'm reading that book right now, and it's crazy that we're talking about this to close out the podcast, because that's kind of what this talks about, is like having the powers that be, or the government, or, you know, the people in power, like basically doing the thinking for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And they talk about all about it. I'm only in like chapter 2, but I read it when I was in high school. But I was like, yo, I think it's a good time to reread this shit, because it's really, I know when I read it in high school, I was like, yo, this shit's fucking weird, that it's like so many parallels to how our society is now. But now I'm reading it and I'm like, dog, this shit is fucking crazy.
I know. Isn't it crazy to see how much it parallels it?
Yeah, it's just like the dude basically saw the future. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know, dude. But yeah, man, it's just, I don't know. It's frustrating, man, because like you just, I maybe it's just because I want to be a lifelong learner.
I think it takes some work to be a critical thinker, but I wouldn't have it any other way, man.
Yeah.
Like, I love the fact that I'm able to hear opinions, and my opinion is fluid and able to change. And I'm also able to really like dig into different ideals and virtues and ideas. You know, that's fucking awesome to me. Like, I get like a mental boner from that shit. You know, it's like, that shit's cool to me. And I wish that was something that we can just like, as a population or society, be like, yeah, this is something that we're gonna encourage.
Yeah.
Is critical thinking.
Also, hey, stay out of people's comments if that's all you're doing. Stop doing that. If you're just like sitting at home and trying to argue with people and in people's comments, and that's as far as you're doing,
you're out.
You're out. You're done. Get out of here. Stop doing that. If you want something, go actually do something that has some importance to it, or actually causes something for whichever way you want to believe in.
It's Monday morning quarterbacks.
Exactly. But if you're just like, even if you're like a super hardcore conservative, then go do the thing that furthers that. And if you're a super hard, then go do the thing. But if all you're doing is in people's comments and arguing, yo, get out. You're done. You're done. Go to lunch.
Hey, we need timeouts, bro.
Yeah. Go to lunch. You're done. Go. You're done. You're done, dude. This is it. Like that's it. You're done. Because like here we are, like putting in effort, and then like I have someone arguing in my comments too. It's like, yo, you're done. You're done. That's it. I'm over it, dude. I'm over it. You're done.
Yeah, there's nothing more frustrating than like the argument being brought against your idea is just a talking point. There's nothing more frustrating than literally knowing that person literally didn't think 2 seconds before spewing the shit at me.
Mm-hmm. It's just like, yo, I'm going to copy and paste this stat to just like use it as a talking point argument. And then like, that's it. And by the way, yo, let's like something else perfectly clear. I'm also not in here and doing this as like, I'm not here in a debate mode. I'm not here like, or whatever I'm like posting up on social media or like clips of these videos or anything. This isn't debate mode. This is just conversation, dude.
Yeah.
No one gets a trophy for being right in any situation. The only thing you're doing is inflating your own ego and jacking yourself off.
Bars.
That's it.
Yeah.
So no one gets a trophy for any of this thing, dude. So like, yo, let's just talk it out.
Yeah, there's no like winning.
What do you do
in online discourse? You know what I'm saying?
What does it do? Give you 5 minutes of like,
I showed that.
I showed that. let me copy and paste this fucking thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna screenshot that and send it to my homies. Let them know
like, yo, dude, look at this dude. Look at this snowflake. And yo, I just want to say real quick, NASCAR banned the Confederate flag from NASCAR, and yo, some over dramatic people, damn, dude.
It's the craziest
dude,
thing,
it's just, oh my God, people boycotting NASCAR, people now trying to cancel NASCAR for all this. Oh, I don't watch NASCAR. I don't care about NASCAR, whatever. So
literally,
it's not like I could care less about NASCAR, but it was just seeing the reaction from them banning the Confederate flag. And then like that one racer retiring because of that, and then NASCAR burned him. He was like, all right, I guess we'll have to look for somebody to constantly come in 38th place. And
I know, like you're just like a nobody.
He was just like whatever, and they had to Google him too. But yo, dude, people are.
It's crazy. It's just crazy to me, like how much people hold on to these ridiculous fucking concepts. Like if you look at the Confederacy, they were literally anti-American.
Mm-hmm.
Like their point was they didn't want to be American. They wanted to break off and do their own thing. They're literally like, that's like treason. You know what I'm saying? That's like punishable by death.
Yeah.
And you want to like people who live nowadays want to somehow celebrate like the most like anti-American people that were on this continent. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Because here's the thing too. When Trump is out of office and you don't have like a Trump flag to wave anymore, you're just going to go back to being a shitty person.
Hey. Damn, bro. Shots fired, bro.
Eric, plug your grum.
Eric _ Big Mood Coach, bigmoodcoach.com, and H.O.E podcast, H.O.E podcast at IG as well. We're really leaning into this whole shit. So merch coming in the next month or so.
I'm kind of excited for that merch.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
Hell yeah.
Jesse, you're in charge of the merch from now on.
I'm down.
There you go.
I got some ideas. What'd you think of my ideas so far?
I don't remember them, so that's why you're in charge of the merch.
Fuck, dude. Thanks for listening.
No, but that's why you're in charge.
Okay, cool.
Gotcha.
Your boy _ is nice. 2 words. And Saladin Carpaccio on SoundCloud, bro.
Hey, on the ones and twos.
I dropped some 2 fire mixes I'm really proud about.
Nice.
So
and at Tortilla Scientist on Instagram. So give your boy a follow.
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Come see what's going on in our lives.
Let's do it. I'm gonna put pictures up of fish, podcast clips.
Just fishing, bro.
Fishing and podcast clips, dude.
All right, we out.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I didn't get to go fishing this weekend though.
I need to go fishing, bro. We still haven't gone fishing, dude. I don't want to invest in a $2,000 kayak just to go fishing. Can we just like do regular ass fishing?
Vultures circling above, they all in a piece, but they don't even know my name. Won't get even to swipe for the train. Cloudy, ride to the airport, gotta get right for the plane. Custom.